Okay, so we left off 49, right? So we'll start at 50 today. So, all right, so looking at question 51, I mean 50, looking at 50, we have evaluate each expression. And I know for this part, I mentioned to you guys GEMS, the order operations. You were not here yesterday. 49, so we'll start at 50, guys. All right, we all got a blonde moment. It's okay. So, all right. So for order operations, I know when I covered this with you guys, I call it GEMS. We do the groups first, then we do exponents, then multiplication, division, and last thing, subtraction and addition. So as an emphasis, last thing we do is subtraction and addition unless it is in a group. So I see question number 50. I see a group, 4 minus 2. It's a group, so I'm going to do it first. I know 4 minus 2 is 2. So then I have here 2 divided by 2, which is 1. My answer should be 1. I see number 51. I see a group, 8 plus 4. That's a group. I'm going to call that 12. So then I have 12 divided by 4, which is better known as 3. But once again, addition, subtraction, we do it at the end unless it is in a group.
When we go from left to right.
And if there's more than now that you said that, let me take a look at question 52. Right, I see addition, subtraction, but when there's more than one, go from left to right. Kind of like how you read. You read from left to right. So in this case, do the subtraction first. Go from left to right. So 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. If there's go from left to right. If there's more than one. All right, so this takes us up until number. Let me see, where do we stop? 56. All right. By 56, let me do the group first. This big group. I notice inside the group I have a division and addition. And I know I divide before I subtract, or before I add. So just that group, I'm going to look at this as 1 plus 3. Notice I did the division first. So 1 plus 3, I know that whole group is 4. Now the other group, I know it's also 4, right? Because 2 plus 2. When two numbers are put together, that's times. So 4 times 4, I'm going to call that 16. So this takes us up until 60. You guys should all finish up until 60, right? Right, Emily? Just joking. All right. Any questions up until 60? All right, now looking at 61, write each number in scientific notation. Remember scientific notation, when I covered this, I called it A times 10 to a B. And if it was to the right, it was going to be a positive B. If I had to move to the left, it was going to be a negative B. And I came in and said my A has to be between, it has to be less than 10, and it has to be greater or equal to 1. So basically my number has to be between 1 and 10. So I see where I need to finish, right after the 8. That's where I need to finish. But I'm going to start between the 7 and the 8. I'm going to write that as 7.8. The 7.8 is between 1 and 10. Times 10 to something. Notice how I'm beginning between the 7 and the 8. And I have to move it after the 8. I have to move it one place to the right. So I'm going to put positive 1. Because I'm moving one place to the right. let me do one more example. Let's take a look at 62. I see where I need to finish, right at the very, very end. If you don't see the decimal, it is at the end. I'm going to start this as 4.3. 4.3 is between 1 and 10 times 10 to something. So you guys see I'm starting between the 4 and the 3. And you guys see I'm moving it over there. Moving 5 places to the right. So positive 5. Right? If I was moving to the left, it would be a negative value. Any questions up until 72? 65? Alright, looking at 65, I'm going to call this 4.0 or 4 times 10 to something, negative 4. Okay? Because in this case we move it 4 to the left. Yes. 63. Alright? In order for me to make this between 1 and 10, I'm going to call this 4.12. 4 point something, so 4.12 times 10 to the what? Positive 1. Because notice how I'm beginning between the 4 and the 1, and I have to finish between the 1 and the 2. So 4.12 times 10 to the 1. Alright, anything up until 66. 64, you said? Alright, 64. It's up to start between 1 and 10. I'm gonna call this 4.5. So 4.5. So we're not moving, right? So we go times 10. Can I just leave it 4.5 times 10?
Yeah.
Not quite.
0.
To the 0 power. Yes. If I don't put the 0, remember 10 is to the 1. So I'm saying move it one place to the right. So since we don't need to move, make sure you do put the 0. So 4.5 times 10 to the 0. Okay. Then, let's do this backwards, right? I was given to you guys in standard notation. Standard means how you guys always see it. Right? That's standard notation. So I was given it to you in standard, and I asked for scientific. Now let's do it backwards. Question number 67. I'll give it to you in scientific notation, and you give it to me in standard. So for this one, we're going to call this 42.8. Because you notice we needed to move the point one place to the right. So 42.8. If I look at 68 as another example, I need to move 3 places to the right, add some zeros if you need to. And just to double check, I was there and then I go 1, 2, 3. So 3 places to the right. If you put the decimal at the end, it does not matter. All right. Any questions up until 72? All right, now, something that we did struggle with a little was 73. Greatest common factor. That one we did struggle a little. So for 28, number 28, I'm going to come and say, well, two numbers that multiply 28, let me go 4 times 7. Now my 4, let me split it as 2 times 2. So I will write 2 times 2 times 7. That's 28. For 16, let me go 4 times 4. And each of my 4s, I'm going to split it as 2 times 2. So I finish with 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I see what they have in common. They have a 2, then they have another 2. So multiply what they have in common, and I'll finish with 4. So 4 is the biggest number that goes into both of them. That's what greatest common factor means. So write it in prime factorization, see what they have in common, and multiply what they have in common. Alright, so this takes us up until 78. Any questions up until 78? Now, least common multiple, 79. This is a little harder, right? We're going to start it the same way. 20, I'm going to break that as 4 times 5, and my 4, I'm going to break it as 2 times 2. So if you notice, I'm going to write it up here. That's going to be 2 times 2 times 5. Right, that's 20. So I'm starting it the same way. Then 30, let me break that as 6 times 5, and my 6 is going to be 2 times 3. So I'm going to have 2 times 3 times 5. I see what they have in common. They have a 2, they have a 5. If I was working greatest common factor, I know my greatest common factor would be 10. Right? If I was working greatest common factor. But since I'm getting least common multiple, I have to get the greatest common factor multiplied by everything else that I did not get in a group. So I have to go times 2 times 3. So my answer should be 60. Once again, least common multiple is the greatest common factor multiplied by everything else. We call it the least because they're huge numbers. I know 20 and 300, I mean 20 and 30, they both go into 600. But I don't want to know any number they go into. I want to know the smallest what they go into. So 60 is the smallest they both go into. So least common multiple is the small or of huge numbers. All right. Any questions up until 84? Now simplifying 85. Let me take a look at 85. Simplify each. Write your answer as a mixed number when possible. Remember, we write mixed numbers when the big number's on top. That's what we call mixed numbers. But now here, 120 over 140, I can say that 140 is 14 times 10. I can say 120 is 12 times 10. That way I cancel out the 10s. And I'm trying to cancel something out. Then 14 at the bottom, I can call that 7 times 2. 12, I can call that 6 times 2. That way I cancel out the 2's. And my answer should be 6 over 7. You guys can come and say, well, could I have just gone for 140, could I have just said 7 times 20? And the top I could have said 6 times 20. So I cancel out the 20s and I get easily to 6 over 7. Get there as many steps as it takes you. It doesn't matter how many, just get to 6 over 7 in this case. So simplify by whatever you can, and if you can simplify more, keep on simplifying. But remember, on this one, I always start with the bigger number. It's always easier to start with the bigger number. As another example, let's take a look at number 86. Give me two numbers that multiply equals 12. 6 times 2, you said?
3 times 2.
Oh, no, for 12. The number at the bottom.
6 times 2.
6 times 2. So, remember, I always start with the big number. So, two numbers that multiply equals 12, we went 6 times 2. I want the top number to be a multiplication. Would I repeat one of those two numbers?
3 times 2.
You want to go 3 times 2? Okay. Cancel out the 2's. Now we have 3 over 6. Now my 6, I can simplify it. Give me two numbers that multiply equals 6. 3 times 2, okay. The top 3, I think we can go 3 times 1. Cancel out the 3's. So my answer will be 1 over 2. Alright, any questions up until 90? Looking at 91. Find each sum. So when they have common denominator, the number at the bottom is the same. They're pretty easy to work with. Just copy the number at the bottom. Or in this case, 8. On the top, I'm going to go 11 plus 15, which is 26. We have an improper fraction. The number on top is bigger, So I do have to divide. 26 divided by 8. I know 8 goes into 26 3 times, because 8 times 3 is 24, and my remainder is 2. My fraction technically should be 2 over 8, but I'm going to simplify it as 1 over 4. Right? 2 over 8 is the same thing as 1 over 4. So simplify your fraction. When they have a common denominator, they're easy to work with. When they don't, let me take a look at something like 98. I'll skip 97, come back to it. Let me take a look at 98. When they don't have a common denominator, we have to make it common. So I'm going to make two fractions. It's a minus. Which one's the smallest number? The 2 and 7 both go into 14. So my common denominator will be 14. How many times does 2 go into 14? 7. So multiply the top by 7, and we get 21. On the second fraction, how many times does 7 go into 14? So multiply the top by 2, and we get 16. So copy the 14 from the bottom. On the top, 21 minus 16 is 5. My big number's at the bottom, so we're good. Right? I don't have to divide this side. I said I was going to come back to 97. So let me come back to 97. When you have a number that is not a fraction, you can easily make a fraction by putting a 1 at the bottom. So now it is a fraction. It is not common denominator. Which one's the smallest number that both 1 and 5 go into? 5. So my common denominator will be 5. For the first one, how many times does 1 go into 5? How many times does 1 go into 5? 5. So multiply the top by 5. On the second one, how many times does 5 go into 5? 1. So multiply the top by 1. So I should get 21 over 5. Right, 25 minus 4 gave me 21. We have a big number on top, so we do have to divide. You said 4 and 1/5. Oops. 4 and 1/5. Alright, so this basically takes us up into 102. Any questions up into 102? Which one? None? Alright, remember I said I wanted to finish around 100. I think 102 is around 100. So we can stop here. We'll finish it on Monday. But I do hope that over the weekend you guys do take a look at it. Try to take a look. Your final is pretty much like it. It's pretty alike. Just numbers switch. So like to take a look at it. I can answer any questions on Monday. We'll finish this on Monday. On Tuesday, we'll double check that our answers. I come over that I want us to be able to, for me to know your answers, and for you to know what's right and what's wrong. So whatever's wrong, you can fix it. And my hope is you guys have your test Wednesday. My hope is that Tuesday night you guys do take a look at it, review it.